Hello, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and Hurricane HD video blog for the 7th of June, 2013. Taking a look at where Andrea is now, moving rapidly through the Carolinas, going to head on into the Tidewater of Virginia from there, and then out over the Atlantic Ocean. Water temperature's too cold in that area for it to regenerate much, so that'll be the end of Andrea in pretty short order. It'll move on out of the region, taking a lot of this precip and hopefully all of it with it. These bands, though, that are coming in off the ocean, rotating around, trying to feed energy into that low-level center, can drop a lot of rainfall in a short amount of time. They can also put down a brief, hopefully not too strong tornado, but any tornado is a real pain in the rear end, isn't it? So you got to be on the lookout for that, especially considering the heating of the day underway across the eastern North Carolina region and eventually into the Tidewater of Virginia. That warm air that rises due to the sun heating the earth helps to further destabilize the atmosphere, and the already pre-existing spin that we have in here just makes it fairly ripe for tornadic development, although this is not a classic tornado setup, so that's good news. Down in Florida, where Andrea first came in yesterday in this region through here, only one feeder band left over, almost like a cold front draped across the area. But that's a pretty long feeder band trying to keep this thing alive. It is a process. It wants to keep going until the energy source is completely exhausted or some other stronger opposing force acts upon it and puts an end to it. Looking at the visible satellite picture of Andrea, here it is over the Carolinas, moving into North Carolina now, and it'll cross near the Triangle region, almost right up I-95 or just west of it, and then eventually over Virginia and then out over the ocean. And this area right here, though, where the sun is starting to shine through just a little bit, going to destabilize the atmosphere just enough to create a little bit of a threat of tornadoes. Again, if you keep an ear out to NOAA Weather Radio, or you have an app that you use that alerts you to watches and warnings from the National Weather Service, just make sure that is active, and then you should be okay. Being aware is the key. The forecast track over the next several days will take Andrea off the United States coastal waters, then eventually out through the Canadian Maritimes and beyond, and that'll be the end of it. No more Andrea. We'll have one down and probably many, many more to go. Out in the open tropical Atlantic today, 92L out here. Nothing to worry about, but it is interesting to have a tropical wave come off of Africa and try to develop out here this early in the season. I believe that shows us that the season is going to be very active. The air in this area is more unstable than it was over the last couple of years, more moisture in the mid-levels. The water temperatures at the surface here also warmer than average, and that is going to lead to a very busy season. And this is, I think, sort of like a shot across the bow, if you will, a warning shot that we're going to have a very active Cape Verde season. So when is the next chance of development? Well, it's hard to make absolutely certain of when that'll be. I don't have a crystal ball that is a guarantee. That would be great, wouldn't it? But we do have one guidepost among many that we look at, and that's the MJO index here, the Madden-Julian oscillation. And this is basically your period of time in the atmosphere that supports upward motion or deep convection across the tropics. And the ECMWF is a great model to forecast that. And what we're looking at is the gray shading is sort of your envelope of your various ensemble members of the model, which are the yellow spaghetti-looking angel hair pasta stuff. Each of those, I think there's like 51 members of the ensemble group. And yeah, it's just like a symphony. Everything's made up of different members, and the sum of all of those parts is a beautiful symphony. And in this case, you hopefully get a beautiful model output that is reliable for tracking things like the MJO. And here we have this green line, which is the ensemble mean or the average. And you see, if you just read the words here, hopefully they're visible. I'll still tell you what they say. Maritime continent, and that's through Indonesia and that area. The Western Pacific, which is obvious, the coast of Japan, Philippines, etc. And then finally the Western Hemisphere and Africa, and then the Indian Ocean. And these four regions subdivided further into different pairings so that you have 8 phases. And typically, phases 8, 1, and 2 are the times when the Atlantic Basin and the Eastern Pacific would see activity because of that favorable upward motion in the atmosphere. Well, the green line here, the ensemble mean, not heading towards these phases over here anytime soon. So I think for the next 10 to 15 days, things should be quiet. You can't rule out something developing in an active season like this outside of the MJO windows. So don't just turn away and go, oh good, nothing to worry about for 2 weeks, because you never know when the season is projected to be as active as it is. You can get those developments outside of the MJO pulses, and you just have to watch the update here to gain insight to that, right? That's what it's all about, keeping you aware and up to date. All right, have yourselves a great weekend. Once Andrea is gone out of the pattern, it'll be a wonderful weekend across the southeast and across Florida, especially where this first impacted the region. Again, I am Mark Sudduth. HurricaneTrack.com is my website. Always a privilege and a pleasure to do these videos for you on Hurricane Pro and Hurricane HD for the iPad. Have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you again. Actually, I'll be here all weekend with an update Saturday and Sunday. And with that, I'll talk to you again tomorrow.